Today we're going to draw a winter cardinal. When we draw or take a picture of something from the side, that's called a profile view. So today we are drawing a profile view of a cardinal. All right, grab a sheet of paper and a pencil and let's get started. We're going to start off with a zigzag line coming from the top left corner. When we get about a hand width out, we're going to start to curve back and go a little bit past halfway of the paper. That will represent the crest, which is the top of the cardinal's head, and the face. So again, zigzag line, hand width out, curve back in a little bit past halfway, and then we'll add the belly. So from the corner, remember we're doing a zigzag line, and I'm going to go up a little bit. See how I made almost like a check mark here? Then I'm going to do another one. Mine is almost a hand width out, so I can go ahead and I can start curving back in. And as I curve out and then back in, I'm going to stop a little bit past halfway. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the cardinal's chest and belly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start about 1 or 2 fingers width up from the bottom of this line. And I'm going to curve it out and bring it off the bottom of the paper. And we want it to be about even. A little bit more, a little less is okay, but pretty much even with the face. So I'm going to bring it out, and once I get about even with the face, then I'm going to bring it down to the bottom of the paper. So now I have the crest, which is the top of the bird's head. I have his head here, and I have his chest leading into his belly. Now we need to go ahead and add the wing. The wing we want to come out about 4 fingers width. We're also going to start about a finger width below the bottom of the head, and we're going to bring it off the bottom of the paper. So I'm going to start on the edge of the paper, about a finger width again below the bottom of the head. And I'm going to bring it out. And then once I get about halfway, I'm going to end in a letter J shape. So I'll do a J shape about halfway. I'm going to add one more, and then I'm going to bring it right off the bottom of the paper. So now what I'm going to do is about 3 fingers width from the top, I'm going to add a scalloped line. A scalloped line is like the waves you would draw if you were drawing the ripples in the ocean. So about 3 fingers width down from the top, I'm going to go 1. Notice each of these are about a finger width. 2 and 3. In between where these curve up, at the highest point, I'm going to do some connecting J's just like I did here. So I'll do 1 connecting J, 2 connecting J's, and go off the edge of the paper. Notice the bottom of my J's are even with the J on the edge. Finally, we'll repeat our connecting J's one more time to finish the wing. Now let's go ahead and work on the face. If I bring my beak out really far, maybe like all the way out here, that would look maybe more like a woodpecker. If I curve it, it's going to look more like a parrot or a macaw. So it's really important that I get the shape of the beak right. A cardinal's beak should be short, and also notice it's wide. It's not like a little skinny one, and also short. It won't come out that far from the face. So wide and short. Notice this one is a little less than 3 fingers width out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the middle of the face. I'm going to find the middle of the face, and I'm going to make a horizontal straight line, and I'm going to bring it out 3 fingers at the most or less from the face. I think I'm going to make mine just a tiny bit shorter. Now I'm going to add the top of the beak and the bottom of the beak, and I want it to be about 3 fingers width above this line. And I'm going to bring it from the edge of the face all the way down into the horizontal line. Notice this becomes a diagonal line. So I'm going to add another diagonal line here, and again, I'm going to make sure it comes out about 3 fingers width from the face. There I have my cardinal's beak. Once I've drawn the beak, I'm going to go ahead and add a tiny little oval, a diagonal oval, for the breathing hole. A bird's beak is unique because not only is it their mouth, but it's their nose as well. So this is where they eat their food, and this is where they breathe from. Next, we're going to add the cardinal's mask using curved lines. Smiley face line. Notice it's even with the beak here, all the way across. Curved line. And frowny face line and frowny face line, and bring it all the way into the edge of the beak. Now we're ready to add the eye. The eye should be about the size of a quarter or a little bit bigger than your thumb. And we're going to put it a little bit higher than the middle. Next, I'm going to draw a smaller circle inside of the bigger circle. I'm going to leave a little bit of space between the big one and the little one, but not a lot. Now I'm going to draw another small circle for the highlight. Later, I will color that big area in solid black and leave the little circle white. But for now, I'm going to leave as is since I'm still drawing. Now we are going to create a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. Let's talk about what that means. The foreground is whatever's in the front, meaning closest to the viewer. And there's a few ways that we can figure out what is close. One way is by looking at size. Objects that are closer are going to appear larger than when they are further away. So we know that that cardinal isn't actually bigger than the house, but that cardinal must be super close to the viewer because it's so big. That makes the cardinal part of the foreground. Another way that we can tell what's closer is by overlapping. If objects appear like they're going behind the object, then we know the object is in the foreground. For example, notice the lights at the bottom go behind the cardinal. That makes the cardinal in front. And finally, objects in the foreground are going to appear towards the bottom of the paper. Now the middle ground can be found between the foreground and the background. We know that the foreground is towards the bottom of the paper, so the background is towards the top of the paper or around the horizon line. The horizon line is the area that separates the ground from the sky. Let's see if you can identify the middle ground. And finally, let's try identifying the background. Remember, the background can be found around the horizon line or above, and the horizon line separates the ground from the sky. Artists use foreground, middle ground, and background to establish a sense of depth in landscapes. Now let's talk about some objects that you can add to your landscape. I don't want your picture to look exactly like mine, so here's a lot of different examples of things that you can pick and pull to create your own unique design. So the first thing that I need to add here is my horizon line. And if I put my horizon line way down here at the bottom of the paper, that's not going to give me a lot of room to fill my space. We really want your horizon line to be at least halfway up, or it could even be a little bit above halfway. And as you see over here, if you want it to look like it's got rolling hills, you can add multiple lines. But the official true horizon line is always going to be the one that separates the ground from the sky. If you'd like to add a city to your horizon line, you can. Do this first by creating different rectangles with different widths and different heights. Then you can stack different shapes on top. You could add other rectangles, you could add lines, half circles, or other shapes like triangles. If you plan on making this a night scene, you could even add small windows that later you can color in yellow to show the lights through the windows at night. If you'd like to draw a barn, start with a rectangle for the base, then curve the top. After you've curved the top, draw a diagonal line angled out on each side away from the house. Connect the top. This will be left white later. Draw the barn door as a rectangle with an X in the middle, and then give it an outline. This will also be left white later. Then draw a semicircle for the window. Next, we'll draw a silo as a tall rectangle with a semicircle on top and lines that curve away from the middle. For a house, you would also start with a square or rectangle and then add a roof. You should also add some lines to the roof to give it some texture. Think about if there's anything you'd like to add to your roof. You could add a chimney with smoke, you could add birds sitting on the roof, icicles, or even lights. Don't forget to personalize your house by adding doors and windows. Overlapping can also show depth. Don't forget to erase whichever object is showing through from behind. Evergreen trees are great to add to winter pictures because evergreens do exactly that. They stay green all year. Pine trees and holly trees are great examples of evergreen trees. To make this style of evergreen tree, I made a curvy triangle with some lumps and bumps. Since objects that are further away appear smaller, we want to make sure that if we repeat these trees anywhere else that's higher, or further up closer to the horizon line, that we make them smaller than those that are lower or closer to the foreground. For a deciduous tree, which is a tree that loses its leaves in the winter, you'll start off with the trunk and then add 2 branches like a Y. After that, you'll continue to add more and more branches, getting a little bit smaller each time. That way you're going from branch to stick to twig. From a top, a pond might look more round, but from the side it's going to look like an oval. And of course, if it's found in nature, then it's not going to be a perfect oval. It may have some curves and lumps to it. If you decide to add lights, start off with a wavy line. Then alternate between up and down for the base. Make sure wherever you put the base, you'll have room to add the bulb. After you've added the bulb, put a highlight on the same side of each that you'll later leave white. Consider what you can add to your sky to show the time of day or weather. Is it sunset, sunrise, night, day? Is the sun shining brightly or is it cloudy? Is it rainy or snowy or windy? Next up, outline in black and adding color.